Greetings. Hello.
Hello.
Salutations.
Hello.
Greetings. Howdy.
Just telling my patrons where to go.
Cool. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you all very much for your patience.
So we began, to catch everyone up, we began streaming the film picture-in-picture with a whole messy dongle situation we had set up that we were very excited about. And then we got a copyright strike and kicked off of streaming.
Which is technically true.
Yes. Yes. What is fascinating is that I every month flag about 3 to 5 versions of our movie that have been uploaded to YouTube illegally. So I think it's very interesting that those are able to be on YouTube and rack up views, yet us streaming literally the first like 8 minutes of the film or 4 minutes of the film got it taken down. So great to know that it works when it works, but I wish it was a little more equitable in its enforcement. I guess this is the plight of an independent filmmaker. We're witnessing it in real time. You make a movie and you share it with the world, and you yourself get a copyright strike.
Well, and I guess just to explain, because people ask me all the time, like, why don't you all just put it on YouTube? And first of all, because we don't have to give away content that costs a lot of money for free. Fundamentally,
it's good policy.
Good policy. But we also signed licensing deals, which means that Brendan holds the copyright on this movie, but it is licensed to other people right now. And so he's essentially given permission away to be the person who decides where it goes.
Yes.
So in that way, doesn't have a say.
It's true. I have forfeited my rights to my own movie for a window of time for other people to then be able to gain value from that movie being exclusively in certain areas.
Okay, now I can comment on my phone.
Yes.
So here's the best that we can do, because YouTube is right. I mean, and it's hard to explain to YouTube, like, no, we own this. This is ours.
Right.
Because it's also available to rent on YouTube. So YouTube's like, oh, that's $3.99.
Sure.
Robbed of us.
Sure.
I mean, they get a buck or something from that.
Right.
But so the best that we can do is that we can watch the movie and comment on it.
Yep.
But we can't play that in here.
Right.
So this would be we all just go like, let's press play now kind of situation.
So to that note, it is obviously available through YouTube. If you actually go to the trailer, so if you type in Non-Transferable, official trailer.
If you're in the US and you have Amazon Prime, it's already included in your subscription.
Right.
It's rentable absolutely everywhere. It's if you're in the UK, it's on Amazon Prime UK, and it's also on Sky TV. If you're in France, it's on something.
It's on Metropole, which is like MTV or something like that. But they have a kind of a subscription version of it's a television company that then has like on-demand movies. It's in Italy. So if you're in Italy, it's on their broadcast television. It is technically in China. It's in Turkey. It's in the Middle East. It's in Africa.
Pirated.
It's in Mexico.
So it's
and it is pirated a lot of places. I would never tell you to go find a torrented or free version of it, but people have done that. But if you are on YouTube, you can type Non-Transferable in the search box, and it is one of the first things that comes up. It shows the poster in the bottom corner of that poster. It says 1 hour and 23 minutes and 19 seconds, the full duration of the movie, and then it has a little blue buy or rent button. I don't know if that is specifically to the domestic North American market or if that is global, but that is
I don't think it's
available.
global.
You know say. So we're doing what we can do. But thank you to YouTube for cracking down on piracy, even if it is us doing the pirating.
That's like, I don't know. I want to make a pirate joke about like,
Arr.
Like robbing your own booty. Matey. Okay, so YouTube, you can rent it in the UK. Anyway, so I think what we will do, I know, I'm sorry. It's so funny because we did this once before.
We did.
And there was no...
We did it on Instagram.
We did it on Instagram?
Yes. If I recall correctly.
I think we did it on Instagram and YouTube, but we definitely did it on YouTube. But you weren't doing an official picture-in-picture. You just, because you just put your iPad
put my iPad up.
Which we could also probably do.
We could.
But you couldn't actually see it. It looked terrible. Also, we were filming it on a potato. I don't have to lean forward.
We do film on a potato. It is our favorite filming device. But yeah, so how would we like to proceed in this fun adventure?
So I think we're going to watch it. So I think you're going to step out for a second and figure out how to put the movie on the TV.
Sure.
So that we can watch it.
Sure.
There. He'll be back. I would be willing to do it if I thought I had a prayer of knowing how. He does the technical stuff. Look, it's only an hour later than we said we were starting the movie. I'm sorry. So what is the cat doing? Oh, she's just curled up on the floor. Yeah. She's asleep. She looks happy. Are we starting from the beginning? Great question, y'all.
We should.
We should. Yes, Brenda says we should. Because it'll be a lot easier to sync for everyone who wants to try to watch this on their own. But also we were only 8 minutes in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an 84-minute movie, y'all. And 40 of you are stuck with us through this, and I appreciate that because this is not how it was supposed to go.
Maybe queue up some questions about the film and the process that we can answer through the process while we get everything kind of ready to go.
Did y'all hear that? Any questions? Pretty sure it's done. Aren't we all, though? Done with YouTube? Well. Yeah, we've talked a little bit about this. Brendan wrote this movie originally to like try to sell it. It's like a studio movie. And the prototypes were, I believe, Armie Hammer and Emma Stone.
Correct.
And we love to think of ourselves as a poor man's Armie Hammer and Emma Stone. Favorite filming location? Was it hard to book locations for the movie? These are good questions.
Yeah, I just figured we'll queue these up for the watch down.
Yeah, I'm acknowledging them.
Okay.
How long was the writing process? That's a question for you. I'm about to graduate uni as a lit and creative writing student and start my creative writing MA. How cool. Why is it a creative writing MA and not MFA? Genuine question. Just because I don't understand the difference. I mean, because it's an art. It's a fine. Isn't writing a fine art? I have one of those. Oh, because you're in England. Great answer to my question. You could reenact a scene from the film. It's, I guarantee, better in the real movie. And yeah, Brendan will talk about the writing process. I can tell you how long it takes me to write a movie. 18 years. That's not accurate. Purdy as the boat captain. Oh, that boat captain. Local Turkish actor. Now she's awake and looking at me like, what? Thank you, Maya. It is a blanket made for Purdy, of Purdy. Sometimes you just gotta really lean into being a crazy cat lady. Just a full cat lean.
I thought I might have the movie on my iPad, but I cannot find the like videos app portion of where I've hidden that from myself on here. So, because I was going to just like put it here and just be like, here's a movie.
My iPad has a video app.
Does it have the movie?
No, but you could airdrop it to me.
Possibly, yeah. I just thought it might actually be already on here and ready to go. So
I see.
But again, we've wasted enough of people's time, and I think we're just going to talk over nothingness. And if someone's able to also hit play on the movie and wind this up, then that is what we are able to produce in this moment from this place.
Oh, thanks, Heather. Okay, so Heather says that she should have pre-watched the movie, but she's still so happy to be hanging here with us.
Thanks for hanging.
We appreciate that. Oh, it's such a joy to be with you. I mean, in this socially distant time, we can also just hang out. Okay, so will we do a collective press play for those who are following along?
That sounds like a thing.
Oh, is it on video?
Mm-hmm.
Hold on 2 seconds, because he might have just come up with another solution. He also brought over a bar of chocolate. So
important.
Who needs cookies? My cousin Frida designed this art, y'all. How precious. And she sent me this like enormous box of chocolate, and I just kind of put it in the pantry because I was like, that is so much chocolate, and if I look at it, I'll just want to eat it every time I walk by. And so then I put it in the pantry and kind of forgot about it. And it's all like, it doesn't expire until October, but it's all like Christmas themed. And now in our socially distant quarantine isolation times, I've just been like going through the Christmas chocolate. Oh, look who has the movie. Now, what we don't know is if the sound is, so I feel like we got to turn the volume down. What a terrible view of this movie. Hello from Italy. Italy, love you. Love you so much. You guys are going through a lot. I mean, we're all going through a lot, but Italy's going through it sooner than the rest of us. And just sending a lot of love. Italy is a country that's very important to me, very close to my heart, because I've probably spent more time in Italy than any other country outside of the U.S. Oh, Matt, you're right on time. Hello, Italians. I spent a semester of college in Firenze, and have also visited 2 other times, which is why collectively I think it's the country I've spent more time in than any other non-US country. And my heart just breaks for y'all because I love Italy very, very much. So well,
that's going to be reversed, isn't it?
Yes.
Haha. Neat. All right. Well, then it'll just act.
I think
as
it's
kind
just
of
a concept
little
of you can get where we are in the film.
Right. It's our small picture-in-picture.
This is the saddest.
Neat.
Yeah, we were waiting for you, Matt. That's accurate. Oh, hello from Germany. Yes, we've all been stuck inside. Yes, we're all doing intense social isolation. In Los Angeles, we have a safer at home order, which is basically don't go outside unless it's for essential supplies, like chocolate. Okay, so do you want to try to coordinate pressing play in these 2 places at the same time?
Yep.
Okay, on 3.
And then whoever's at home can do it with us as well.
That's what I'm saying. Well, there's a delay, so who knows?
You're going to tap once and it's going to illuminate where the play button is? Great. Yeah. All right, so
1, 2, 3. But we gotta turn the volume down.
Okay. Great.
And do you want to turn it a smidge upon you? Anyway, so Brendan made these credits that are, I mean, he commissioned somebody to make these adorable animated credits. And there was a bike accident in the making of this. So there are 3 different bike messengers. Because we sacrificed for art. Mark's arm was shattered, and
completely shattered.
He's a scar that is like from this, and his elbow is a robot now. Which is not ideal, I guess, but that's the sacrifice he made for the movie.
I mean, it's not sentient.
You don't know that.
It's true.
You're not in his arm.
But so what we did was I wanted to get basically a complete rendering of San Francisco that we're zooming in and out of. And originally my idea was that it was going to be over, of course, the entire film. All the travel sequences would be this kind of cool rendered effect, but it ended up taking so long to do the first one that we don't have them anywhere in the movie except the opening. And now we have Mark Souza healthy in the before times of the bike scene with Julia Cho.
With Julia Cho. This is when Julia had just gotten her cool undercut, and she's kept it ever since. Because she has really thick hair and she gets hot.
And Matthew Scott Montgomery. I met Julia Cho doing Jeff and Robbie Fail History for Subway. It was a web series we did. And I met Matthew Scott Montgomery as a standardized patient at UCLA.
And you went to college with Mark Souza.
And I went to college with Mark
I
Souza.
obviously met Julia Cho on the Lizzie Bennet Diaries. And because of the Lizzie Bennet Diaries is why I know Christine Linnell.
You were in the Lizzie Bennet Diaries?
No, I was just a really avid fan, and so was Christine. And that's how we connected. That's the forged passport you made. And
Christine gave us access to this location, this office location, for us to start the movie.
Downtown Los Angeles, standing in for downtown San Francisco. And downtown Los Angeles does actually stand in pretty well for downtown San Francisco because it has tall enough buildings. And I looked out the window and was like, as a native Bay Area we don't have a name.
Zoom comes up in the movie. The ladies use Zoom to conference each other, which has now become obviously everyone's favorite tool.
I think this is crazy because Zoom gave us all these assets for free because in 2015, not a lot of people knew about Zoom. Everyone was Skyping, and they were just like so friendly and nice to work with and happy to like get the word out.
I like emailed with the CEO of the company, like the founder of the company. He was like, yeah, let's talk to our marketing team about
the head
being
guy.
Zoom in your movie. And so Zoom is all of our video conferencing for the movie, which is great.
And now it's like how the world is operating entirely. It's like schools and businesses are all on Zoom. I'm sure the interface looks nothing like that now.
And then Marcy, or Shauna Malcolm, is riding around in an Elf, which is a little bicycle covered thing that was a mode of transportation from my hometown of Durham, North Carolina for a few years. And my father had one, and it became one of his preferred modes of transportation that was a little more environmentally conscious. And they just went out of business 2 years ago, which is unfortunate, but they are memorialized in our movie as the parking enforcement's vehicle that she pedals around the city in.
Somebody asked about getting a soundtrack. Oh, here comes a cat. And we cannot distribute a soundtrack because we have licensed the songs for very specific use. Yes. So we're allowed to use that opening song in the trailer and the movie. And then the other songs have been licensed for the movie, but not for like wider use. But you can also go find them and patronize those artists.
Yes. And at the end of the film, and maybe we can I can post a list or a screenshot at the end of this. Or maybe I'll put together a playlist on my Spotify.
Oh, that would be cool.
If the artists are all on Spotify. What is not available is...
Oh, probably the Turkish stuff.
Ivan Arbiter is a remarkable composer.
The actual score.
He's the composer for Legend of Neil, which is one of the first web series I ever did. And made this incredible full orchestral score for the movie. And that is not available anywhere.
Because Elon owns the rights to put that out. So you know, reach out to Elon. His name's in the credits.
It's true.
If you want to say, I want the score for Non-Transferable. It's like those connecting pieces. Yeah.
While we're all talking and asking questions and watching the movie, we're now back at Barton's Steakhouse in Simi Valley
with Christopher Nicholas
Smith,
who also went to college with Brendan, but is a very successful actor in his own right.
Yes. And just a stellar guy, like willing to drive up and do a scene with us for the day.
And, you know, I think of everyone other than you and I.
And Joey Richter, ladies and gentlemen.
Joey Richter. Every significant role, every large role other than you and I. Because we did ask people, like, Joey did not audition to be the waiter and stuff like that. And we'll get to DVG. He did not audition, but he did read for it. But we I mean, everybody audition.
Well,
So
a part of the thing that I think a lot of actors always talk about auditions as like a burden or a thing we have to go through to get a job. But the other thing to keep in mind that we've gotten to really enjoy is that when you're on the other side of that table, first of all, you're able to play because you're able to be like, here's I'm going to give my friend to play this role that I've never seen them do and just see what they do with it. But also we worked with an incredible casting director named Deborah Maxwell Dion, who does huge movies, like crazy movies, like no business doing our movie. And it meant that we got to bring in all our friends to meet Deborah, which was such a great opportunity for us to
and
be able
many
to
of them
literally
have gone back and auditioned for her for other roles. And so that's
part of being, you know, a creator in this digital sandbox is also trying to find opportunities that, even though it's a little more work for everybody, does allow for people to actually network and maybe kind of level up in their own career. So this steakhouse, I was saying on the other stream,
there's
it is
no other stream. This is the only stream there's ever been.
It is impossible to film in a restaurant in Los Angeles. Hold on, Joey's.
I mean,
that moment
milking all the time
is everything.
I can also see Brian being an extra in the background. Brian was with us every day.
Yes,
came to Turkey with us.
Our second unit director, America Young, for all of our Los Angeles stuff, recommended. She was like, "Hey, I have this young guy that wants to be on more film sets. Would you let him be a PA or something like that?" And I was like, "Of course, that'd be delightful." Brian was there, I think, on our second day of filming in Los Angeles. And became an invaluable member of the team. Just great human, great energy. If you saw my poster series on my 20 fiascos that I did in November and December of this last year, that's on my Instagram. Brian is a very, very talented graphic designer, and he made all those posters. But he then ultimately became part of every single scene in Non-Transferable.
I just want to say to my patrons that was the inciting incident. Getting dumped is the inciting incident.
Do you want to give us the context of the moment and walk us through textually what has occurred?
Well, Amy had her whole life planned out, and then her boyfriend dumping her when she thinks he's going to propose completely derails all the plan, thus disrupting the life she had and forcing her to make other choices. Y'all mostly know this movie, but if you don't, she has tickets for a trip planned in her ex-boyfriend's name. They are non-transferable. She has to go with someone named Josh Merritt.
And so in this scene, her two friends are helping her get over her just having been dumped and kind of talk her through that. And she gets tagged on social media, and they go looking for her her now ex on social media and realize there's a bunch of other Josh Merritts on social media.
We haven't gotten that.
And maybe they can find a new one.
I think that's an iPhone 4. Maybe,
probably.
Maybe it's a 5?
All the technology in this is so outdated. It's fantastic.
Well, and also Brendan was nervous about using like a known social media. So we're about to cut in and you'll see Brendan designed his own social media interface and Photoshop called Join.
Join.
There it is.
There it is.
I has kittens.
Kittens.
Someone has written, and I want to hang with that person who has kittens. Maria asked me what my biggest challenge in playing Amy was, and if I have any similarity beyond appearance. I think the biggest challenge was confidence. It was I had never done a feature before, and it is entirely because you believed in me that I was able to do it. And there were days that I just didn't believe in myself, and so Brendan had to believe in me for me as the director and pump some fake confidence into me so I could.
As far as similarities, I would argue as the writer, I'm Amy.
Yeah,
Amy is me. This kind of like type A thing, and wanting to plan everything and control everything all the time and unraveling very quickly when it does not. And so in many ways, what's very fun is that like.
So you're thriving right now
I'm
in this current environment. That's what you're saying.
So Amy is me as the writer, which is so funny. And then I'm watching Ashley play Amy, and I'm then playing the antithesis character that is disrupting all of that.
I am not a Josh, though.
No,
I have some similarities to Amy. I'm also, I also appreciate a good plan. Like
this is a fascinating moment as well from a filmmaking perspective. We are in, for this scene and the scene after this, we're going to be in the exact same bar in West Hollywood, but there's a front bar and a back bar, and they look like two different venues. And so we shot them and lit them.
We also used this as a third venue in the montage. Yeah. So we got 3 locations out of 1 because that's an indie filmmaker budget.
If you're just joining us, we're watching Non-Transferable, or we're kind of doing a commentary walkthrough of it. You can get it on Amazon Prime. You can get it on YouTube in some regions. There's a UK DVD. It's on Metropole in France. It's through the Italian television. I forget the name, I'm sorry, but there's an Italian television provider that has an SVOD service online. You can also stream it. And then you'll be able to play this along with it and
it is
hear about
available.
how we made the movie.
I hate people. I love that line too. Somebody asked earlier.
So now here we are. We cut to an exterior that we grabbed randomly in San Francisco just at night, and then cut back into the other half of this bar.
Okay, so DVG did not have to audition for this role because we actually, I think we're originally thinking of DVG for the first Josh.
We were.
And then we had a table read once the script was in good shape and just asked a bunch of friends to come read. And we asked DVG to read that role and several other roles. And he made us laugh so much in this part, which we had otherwise kind of heard differently.
Right.
And that we were like, well, that DVG has to play that part because it's just freaking genius. And this is my friend Vika, who filled in at the last minute and made a delicious meal of this like funny little part.
We had a famous YouTuber that I had worked with in the past. I will not sling mud, but they bailed on us last minute.
Literally like less than 12 hours before the
Yep.
shoot. And Brendan had so many other things to handle and he was freaking out. And I said, can I fix this one? Can this be mine?
And Vika came in like a champ and just owned it.
She didn't even tell me till later. She changed a flight to do it.
Good people.
And I think it's her first IMDb credit. And she's done tons of other stuff since.
Well, you can see why. She's very talented.
She's also just a friggin' delight.
At that same table read, the DVG completely blew us out of the water and showed us a character we hadn't seen in play. It's when I met Katie Wee.
Yes.
And that's how I was like, I think Katie Wee is our Sandra.
Yeah, because I was like, I've got your Sandra.
Yeah.
So those are the roles I helped get.
And I think this was Katie Wee's longest amount of time on a set.
At this point
in her career, before she went on to be in like multiple series,
many
be incredible.
I'm just trying to go back and make sure that I'm not missing some of the questions that people asked earlier.
Cool.
But this is one of my favorite roles for DVG, and it was so fun to put the two of us together again in such a completely different way than we also realized that if he was my boyfriend at the beginning and then he dumped me, that a lot of people would feel like Darcy just dumped Lizzie and that they would hate the movie and turn it off.
Right.
For those who don't know the production side, how do you move camera setups to the different set locations since you were using existing buildings, not a stage set? Just with our hands.
So what you basically do is you have to basically flip the room, is what they call it. So we try to film before we get into the technical. He's about to perform a song.
Brendan wrote some words on the page.
Yes. Placeholder words. And then I just asked DVG to sing something.
So he did this off acapella, and Elon put in the music later.
And then Elon built an entire song around what he is singing.
You know what I don't remember is who those musicians are behind him. How did we get them?
Those are background actors. They came with their instruments.
Amazing.
Yeah. I started as a background actor, so I've always adored the incredible gift.
I would go back if we could, but one of those extras watching the stream with a hat with their phone up is me because we needed more extras.
Yes.
There we are in a hotel gym. We looked everywhere for the cutest PJs for Amy, and we couldn't find them. And then I opened up my own drawer and realized that my mother had given them to me. And so, that's Ian. He's actually our sound sound in Turkey, and one of our, what is he, consulting producer? Or
yeah,
something
consulting
like
producer. He gave us our insurance for the first week of production.
That was our DP.
That was our DP, Running and Chasing the Birds. Right Now is a song by Eric Scott Smith, my best friend. Who
composed all the music to Sona.
Yes.
So this is also that same bar.
And that's Walker Davis, who also came with us to Turkey.
This is the scene my hair looks the best in the movie, and it's
just one shot.
But look at that hair.
It's a great shot.
Girl. And then he has drugs. Oh no, sad. Okay, so you were explaining how we flip things.
Oh yeah. So what you generally want to do is when you're filming, obviously there's a lot of what they call coverage, where there's a lot of different angles and scenes, or moments of the same scenes. You've got close-ups of the actor and a wide of everybody to kind of establish the environment. You might have inserts of close up on their hands or reading a piece of paper. Time out for this shot, because this is
real location. San Francisco. A lot of people were like, you green screened that, and we were like, no, we got permits. We went to San Francisco. We flew those two up. You and I drove up.
We did.
Which I do not uncommonly, because I'm from the Bay Area, and so
but it was actually easier to get I got permits over a voicemail on the telephone with the park office in San Francisco.
Easier to do that than getting permits.
Yes, easier than in LA,
because
which took months.
It's a film town, and so
but this was great. We literally brought this bench that does not exist there and put the ladies out on a bench with this stunning view of the bridge, and it was a delight. And it would get slowly, clouds would come by, and so we had a little hand light. So somewhere out there is a photo of I'm like holding a bounce, and the DP's holding a like clip light and filming, and then the boom guy I think is also holding like a bounce or something like that, because we're all just
the background people are just real people.
Yeah, these are just people who are coming by and coming through,
looking at us like we're crazy. We bought this bench at Home Depot. Did you say this?
Yeah, and just brought it.
Sorry, I was reading comments. Yeah, we half bench will travel, and then we just cleaned it up and returned it. That's one of the low budget filmmaking tricks. Just making sure. Someone asked how you chose Josh Merritt's name.
That's a great question.
I remember at the time you telling me that it was because he had merit.
Yes.
So here's Amy's signature yellow.
He's being tested on his merits.
That suitcase is still in the closet.
That's true.
It's probably not something I need.
But this is an example. We were talking about coverage, and this is obviously in the same office location that we shot the very first scene in. But we knew we would need this moment later in the movie.
Right. So we did this on the same.
So we did it all on the same day, and we got it all basically in the same setup. So we knew we were going to be super wide in the office. So while we were there, we shot both moments so that we could save time.
This is the very first day that we shot. We are in the Ontario airport.
It's true.
That was a whole to-do to get all the like permits and stuff for that. You need like the fire department to sign off because you're in. Was the scene meant to say that Amy was living in her office? Yes.
Yes.
But so this is the first day that everyone got together. Ontario is like 2 hours east. We got hotel rooms for people who wanted them. That's also where we did our hair and makeup, was in a hotel. So our makeup artists had a hotel room too. And because the Ontario airport, first of all, is very attractive and would kind of pass for SFO, whereas like the Burbank airport, for example, is like very unattractive. You see it in a lot of TV shows, but it's not a pretty one. LAX is too complicated to film in. They don't really let you.
Yeah.
Excuse me. It's too busy an airport. And Ontario is very attractive. It's in many other known movies. It's in Moneyball. Mm-hmm. It's in one of the Hangovers.
Brian Ames, ladies and gentlemen,
drove all the way out to Ontario just to be handsome.
And walk, which
just
he does
be handsome and have
so well. Brian
lines.
Ames was a standout in my first series, Squatters, and just a delight and a charm to work with. Has an incredible resume. I don't know why he
and then we
answers
just have
my
this
phone
wonky
calls.
guy.
And then this guy shows up.
Not nearly as handsome.
No.
Bummer.
Wah, wah.
Look how young you look without a beard.
I know.
Well, it's funny because you shaved just like a month ago and looked this young again.
I think we're all a little fresher faced.
We're all 5 years older. Yeah, I very much look 5 years older. Why does it look like Amy never saw Josh if she found him in the park before? Oh, because she saw him from a distance.
Yes.
now she's getting a real close-up look. So because this was Brendan's first day as a director, and he really wanted to get all these shots. So first of all, the Ontario airport is so not busy that
there's like 3 flights listed
the
in the
board
background.
is blank. And like if we had more money, we would have screen replaced and made it look busier.
Sure.
But that's totally possible, but just not in the budget of this movie. And so, so Brendan was so eager to get other people's coverage that he wasn't going to get his.
We were running out of time. And this is where it's so great to have someone like America Young, who was our second unit director, to be my eyes when I couldn't be behind the camera.
Brendan,
and she was like, you have to be in this movie.
You're the leading man.
And so
because I was also saying it and he was not listening to me.
We turned around and we got the coverage of me.
Have you ever tried not micromanaging other people? It is
that's a line in the script. And we got my coverage, and then we were trying to load out, because if you go over your time, you get fined all this money. And so I picked up a giant water cooler and spilled all the beverages and the waters everywhere, and we went over our time. It was a very expensive mistake.
Now, a lot of people have asked about this because they think we're also in the Ontario airport, and we are not, because you are not allowed to film at a real TSA. There is a place up in Coima, which is north.
Which is called Air Hollywood.
And they have like 3 big hangars with a few old retired airplanes that have been converted into movie set airplanes, and also a TSA and luggage pickup section. And so that's where we shot.
Yeah. Got Eamon Joseph here, who again has one of those resumes that you're just like, why is he in your movie?
Because you knew him.
But I knew Eamon from I used to be a reader for Deborah Dion, the woman who was our casting director, where I would just help read other actors auditioning for big parts. And Eamon, in his first audition that I ever met him in, at the end of his audition, he's leaving, and he's so smooth, and he's like, hey, by the way, man, I love Squatters. And I was like, what? You watch my web series? And we've stayed in touch ever since. He came to the premiere. He's always been very supportive. And so I always, try to find a place for Eamon in what we're working on.
And we had an hour, I think, to shoot this scene.
Yes.
Because we did all the airplane scenes, the one that's coming up, and then also the one at the end of the movie with Monica Jolly. We'll get there. And because they do major movies and stuff there, basically the way that we could negotiate a little indie film rate was to only have 8 hours in the space instead of 12, because then they didn't have to pay somebody to be there as long, and also to basically like give us a free day, so we didn't have confirmation that we were filming there until like the day before.
Yeah, we basically had to be willing to go on whatever day they suddenly didn't have a booking, and that's when we got to
and film. We also had to be like out at the end of 8 hours.
So while we're filming this scene, people are moving equipment outside into the parking lot and packing up cars, and we're cutting people who aren't needed anymore.
We had spent a little too much time doing this and scene. Other scenes.
So now we're on the plane,
and so
this is the
literally did that whole
plane.
Scene in an hour. This is the bridesmaid plane, different seats, because they have a whole wall of seats they can swap out. Right. But we're literally in the first class where Kristen Wiig was like,
"I'm poor.
I'm poor."
Just like being an independent filmmaker, I'm poor.
I'm poor.
How can I film here?
At some point, our sound guy is scrunched up at our feet.
That's true.
In this scene, in order to get the boom in a good position and be out of sight, which is very impressive.
Yes.
And these are all professional extras, background performers who are around us. Brendan also made a lot of the props.
I did.
Katie Most and Kim Brunner were our
set
art department, and they made most things. But there are a few things that Brendan made, and one of them, Jessica Jade
Andres, ladies and gentlemen, who I went to college with.
And then I completely
directed in the Laramie Project.
Separately, no differently from this is one of my favorite scenes. People are enjoying this. People say they love this fight. I love this fight too. There were takes where the extras were laughing.
It's true.
We had practiced this like crazy so that we could rattle it off really fast.
Which came in handy when we went to Turkey.
Yeah,
is that we basically rehearsed everything like a play, so we were just ready to do it.
Look how young we were. So the prop I was going to say that Brendan made is he made the labels on these little whiskey bottles, and they say Glenn Fake It. Did we?
I don't know if there's a close. There may be when you dump the drink in. You might be able to see it very quickly.
It's very enjoyable to me.
But that's because of copyright. So you don't get, things like notifications on YouTube. You don't get sued by Glenn Levitt.
Right.
You're like, it's called Glenn Fake It.
If you think I missed your question, feel free to type it again because I'm scrolling up and I'm trying to find them. But
I know there's a question about the writing process.
Yeah, somebody wants to know how long it took to write.
It took. So the first draft, I basically this started as a pitch, literally just a one-sheet pitch that was part of many other pitches that went to a major studio from a director, a established director. In that meeting, the only movie they were interested in was Non-Refundable, which is what it was called at the time. And he basically said, hey, do you have a draft I can read? And I was like, why, yes, I do. And I wrote the first draft in 2 weeks and I sent it to him. And then he was like, this could use some notes. And I was like, oh yeah, I haven't touched it in a while. So, I'd probably do a little punch up if you want me to reread it. Haven't really looked at it. And so we then workshopped it and rewrote it and sculpted it over a couple months before the studio said that the storyline was too unlikely to happen. They said this would never happen. And so the film did not go forward. And then it did happen in real life, and it became a viral story on BuzzFeed. And here we are. How attractive.
I was about to say
how attractive. How attractive. And you are force feeding me a beverage.
Love this.
Excellent.
Loved doing it. It was just ginger ale, I think.
And you're like almost laughing in the middle of this, which is great.
Yeah. And that is just a total Tina Fey. I was just robbing 30 Rock there.
And now we cut to a Turkish Airlines shot, which was one of our sponsors.
Mm-hmm, and that's how we got fancy airline
And part of our agreement with them was I said, like, hey, whatever you want the plane to look like, you send me the footage. So they sent us this awesome footage. And then when we landed in Turkey, I sent our second DP, Jared Hoy, who's working on a detail, and who did the drone operation. And we just sent him out into Istanbul for a day. And he grabbed cool footage, including this amazing shot up the Marta Istanbul Hotel,
which no longer exists.
I mean, it's physically there.
The building, but I don't think it's that.
Yes.
Halsey asks, how hard was it to book locations for the movie? What was the process like? And that's a real big question.
So there's the locations in America,
and there's Turkey.
The location,
and we are really in Turkey now. This is a hotel room in Istanbul.
Yes, but the majority of our locations, whether they were in America or in Turkey, I location scouted using Google Earth and using websites. And
in LA, we did some actual location scouting and check places out. But it's, as we previously mentioned, it's very difficult to get people to give you, a less than $10,000 a day price in Los Angeles because it's a film town and everyone knows that everyone's used to major movies and TV shows filming here. And so in that way, it's very difficult to get locations just because people know that they can charge stupid amounts of money.
Right. Oh, we should talk about in this scene, I had gotten a tan.
Oh, is that this scene?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. It's all the scenes. Yeah. So Brendan got burned because Istanbul is the first place that we go in Turkey in the movie, but it's the last place that we went on the actual trip. We flew into Istanbul and then we immediately left, and then we ended in Istanbul. And so by that point, Brendan had changed colors. And I had to figure out, because I was doing my own makeup in Turkey, we had a makeup artist in the US, and she taught me to do Amy's makeup. I think I did okay. And my hair less successfully. And she taught me to do basic color correction on Brendan, just the small amount of kind of on-camera makeup that men get. And I had to do it all over his face and neck to paint him back.
So I matched colors
to white.
Yes.
Because your face had gotten burned.
Yeah.
And of course also here's your shirtless scene at the end of the trip, and they had been presenting us with so much delicious Turkish food, and we're working 12 hours a day, and Brendan was still getting up at 5 in the morning to do his ab workout because he knew the scene was coming. Which is just genuinely, because I think This is something you talk about a lot. I think that people are just assume that like at any time you can take off your shirt and look like that, and like the fact is that like you worked really hard for that.
That is true. Thank you for the acknowledgement of that. And it's also true because like there's people who like you'll get to a film set and they'll be like, and what if you were shirtless in this scene? You're like, I would have done a whole thing and I would have eaten a different breakfast, and like that's not just something I can just do.
And so this is really in front of the Hagia Sophia in Sultanahmet Square.
This is great because it's on a gimbal, so we're just walking and talking, and we nailed it on the first one, and then I was like, I think it could be a little better, and we did 7 more takes and could not get it, mostly because I kept screwing up. And so we just went with take number 1.
And then our Turkish partners helped us find a lot of these locations. Yes. So like this restaurant, for example, we were looking for a beautiful rooftop deck. In this case, we shot dawn for dusk. We shot sunrise for sunset. And so we shot this scene in reverse order. So this is the last part of it that we filmed.
But it's the first part of the scene.
Because we needed the sun to be going down. And in fact, the sun was going up. Now that day, we actually ended up getting up an hour earlier than we needed to because the president, the commander-in-chief, the dictator of Turkey, changed the time that we were going that Turkey was going to observe daylight savings time with so little notice that devices that automatically changed didn't have time. He was like a week before he was like, no, we're gonna do daylight savings at a different time. And so like our iPhones, which had our alarms set on them, ended up going off an hour early. Now thank God it was that way and not an hour late, or we literally would have missed the sunrise. And so,
but what's great is we broke this scene into pieces in reverse order and filmed in reverse order so that we could slowly have the sun set in the scene, even though the sun is actually rising in real life. And I got a lot of very strange looks when I was telling the DP about how we were filming this or whatever. And I said, look, if I'm wrong, let me be wrong in the editing room and I'll be mad at me. But I've mapped this out, and this is how it's going to work. And what's great is we get this beautiful golden light that hits us right at the moment that they're kind of finding each other for the first time.
You gave me the very pretty light in the view, and I appreciate that you were squinting into the sun.
Most of the scenes, I'm squinting into the sun, which is a trick from the My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Is that she always gets the
I remember you pointing that out.
Light behind her.
Brendan was like, "You're the lead. You're going to get the pretty light," and I appreciate it. Jessica asked me where I got this dress, and I bought it in 2015, but it was Anthropologie. It's in my closet. I could go look at who made it, but I don't think I've worn it since. It is a very pretty dress, but once you wear something as a costume, it feels a little funny. But now it's been 5 years, so. But now I only wear athleisure, as do we all. So, and that's behind us, serving as background in this scene. The blonde is Esra, who is a producer on the movie, who is the reason we went to Turkey, because our casting director, Deborah Dion, we mentioned earlier, she, you were asking if she had any connections to like
casting in Croatia or something like that.
Or, if in France or, wherever we might be able to get.
Yeah, but it was Croatia because at the time we were talking to
in
Slovenia about film permits.
And so she said, I know this woman, she like grew up with this woman who's from Turkey and currently living in France, but had spent much of her childhood in the US. So she's very just, international and cosmopolitan. And we were talking to her about France originally, and she was like, no, you should do this in Turkey.
Yeah.
And so she got us all these connections. This is a street that we were told would not be busy. And a cab went down the street about every 5 minutes, which meant that we just had to keep clearing and clearing and clearing and clearing and clearing. And also it was so cold. And my feet in my cute little flats were just ice toes.
We haven't mentioned that none of this sound is real.
Oh, that's right. Oh my gosh. By the time we got into Istanbul, Brendan had completely lost his voice. My sound is real.
Yes.
But Brendan had literally, for every scene in Istanbul, Brendan has no voice. Like
I would talk like this.
Barely enough sound for a guide track, but that's it. Brendan, we're so lucky. We're so lucky it was him and not me. Brendan is so good at ADR, which is looping, which is
additional dialogue recording,
which can sometimes be things that are off camera, but can also mean replacing on camera dialogue. He is so good at matching his own mouth that he luckily ADR'd all of these scenes. And I completely forget that every time I watch this movie, because those are my hands. Yes. We call this shot dough hands because we needed a connecting shot. And so that was actually filmed in an Airbnb in Los Angeles. And I was like, I'm sorry, you want my hands to stand in for like 60-year-old hands? And he was like, yes.
They're just looking at the dough. They're just looking at the rolling dough.
But also, you can see how that's a very thin rolling pin behind her, because that's a typical Turkish rolling pin to make the phyllo dough. And we didn't have that. We had so like, if you think about it, it doesn't work at all. And now I've ruined it for you.
You're welcome.
But those are
We're ruining the magic.
60-year-old
this
hands.
was a concoction.
Oh yeah,
I wanted a dessert that would pop up and be very two-dimensional.
He needed it to be taller than a traditional baklava.
Right, so that it would look really pretty on the screen like this. And so
we shot some food.
This is not a typical dessert in Turkey.
I mean, it is in as much as it's a baklava, but it's a special tall.
Like a cupcake baklava.
And you went back, and he had no voice in this scene.
Yeah.
No voice. And you went back and forth on Instagram, right? Just like Amy, with this bakery in Turkey who designed these baklava for us. But is that the same place that we're actually in?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. Because they're also a chocolatier. Well, why am I saying it like a French way? They're a chocolatier because it's Turkish. And so like, there was chocolate everywhere, and they would like kept giving us like samples and stuff. And we filmed this at night after they were closed.
Right. And that is Esra's mother.
That's Esra's mother. That's right. And she's like a known actress in Turkey.
Right. She won the year after this movie came out.
There's a take of this. So we were putting as decoration a whole star anise on top of the baklava, which is a very strong licorice flavor. And you're not supposed to eat it. And the first time Brendan just crunched into this, and I was like, and he was like, and I was like, you're not supposed to eat that. And he was like, is it poisonous? And I was like, no, it's just hard to eat. But speaking of strong licorice flavor, raka is this Turkish liqueur that is just like super strong and licorice flavored.
Yeah.
Now we're back in Sultanahmet Square at night. And to get those drone shots, there are rules here. So Jared did fly the drone around, but you cannot fly. That's the blue mosque behind us. You cannot fly it directly over a mosque or the Hagia Sophia. You can fly it in the space in between, but if you cross over into that airspace, they'll confiscate your drone.
Yep.
So had very...
we were glad there was no wind.
Yes. Somebody back said... somebody says Purdy seems to prefer Brendan's lap today. It's not today. She does. It's a sadness in my life. Someone says, "What a beautiful shot of the wine glasses in the."
Oh, the little cheers.
Yeah. So that was appreciated.
That is sunrise. That is the first
someone
shot
said, "What inspired this film?" That's a good story. This scene is in my reel.
This movie was inspired by my roommate at the time. He and his girlfriend went to Italy together, I believe. And they got into a fight, and she drove off in the rental car and said, "I will be at the pizza place." And he was left alone, and he was like, "Oh, great, the pizza place in Italy. Great." And he walked around for several hours and found her. They were in a small town, but from that story, I was like, I found this to be hilarious. What if two strangers who were fighting the whole time went on an international trip? And I was like, why would that happen? And I came across the idea that, like, what if someone had tickets in someone else's name and needed them basically to keep redeeming parts of the trip? And that's when I started. And that was what went in the pitch that then got the original thing written.
I consider this my Zooey Deschanel scene when I'm like comically drunk.
I
feel very Zooey Deschanel in it. I'm like, we have to get up so early. But also like New Girl was still on at this point. Purdy looks like she's judging you. That's accurate. Well, now she's watching Mommy under TV. But yeah, she is. And this was like the fanciest room in the hotel.
This was. I requested this specific room because I found it on a picture, and they're like, well, that's just a rendering of an idea of a room. And I was like, you don't have any rooms that look like this. And they're like, sort of.
Because we wanted it to look distinctly Turkish and not like a hotel room we could have shot in Los Angeles.
But what is nice about doing kind of partnerships or sponsorships, honestly, and my big success in this world has been always turning to the brand or the sponsor and saying, look, I'm going to point a camera at whatever you want me to put a camera at. How do you want to represent your brand? Put us in the nicest room and we'll film the nicest room. Put us in a regular room, we'll film a regular room. A location is a location for us.
And all these places put us up.
That is true.
Fantastic.
Very good care
we were
of us.
staying in other rooms in
this
hotel.
Meals.
But what's funny is because Brendan made a big deal about like me being the lead actress to them. They often gave me the nicest room. So like everyone had a nice room, but like I would have like a suite. And so I think actually they gave me this room, and then we didn't want anyone to sleep in it.
So we put all the equipment in there.
So we'd store the equipment in there at night. And then nobody slept in this room because we didn't want to. This was our first day in Turkey.
That is true.
And so this is my favorite story. When we got there, Brendan had location scouted this all online, and he had found, so this car is a Murat, and it's the only car that's made in, was made in Turkey. So this is like a 1976 Murat, we think. But like cute little car to an American that feels so like
it's their version of a Fiat.
European, yes. But like most of Turkey's like the company Land Rover gave us a Land Rover to drive around in. Like they're driving in like a lot of like bigger, less adorable cars, but that's not cute in a movie.
And that's not the formula of a rom-com.
Right.
A rom-com, they always are in some adorable little film.
Yeah, fix that.
Okay.
Sorry, look, I thought I was falling. But so anyways, they found this car for us, and they said we've rented it for 2 hours. And we were like, oh no, it's going to be all day. And they said, well, how could it be all day? It's
a couple pages.
It's because it's like 2 3-page scenes. And they're like, how could that take all day? And we were like, welcome to movie making, you will see. Now, we also didn't have a real trailer. The way a process trailer, it's called, is how people film scenes in cars, which is actually that the car is like on a bed that's being pulled by a bigger car. And in trying to figure out, this is a stick shift, which I can't drive. Plus I had to like do all the lines in the scene that we practiced. What we ended up doing is with a rope, like an old school rope, tying this car to a bigger car, putting it in neutral, and they pulled. I had the control of the brake. Because also, like, once if they slowed down, we would just get closer. So, like, I had the brake, and that was all I had. And then because there's water on one side and olive groves on the other side, we would have to turn around and go all the way back and then start over for every take. That's a drone shot.
Yeah. So
that was our first day. And then this is the second day, isn't it?
Yes. This is a little cafe that was nearby.
We had lunch in there before, and then here we are basically like, I think they were open in the afternoon and then they closed in the evenings.
Yes.
Okay, so these streets are full of people walking by, and also people across the street just pulled up chairs out and watched us because this was so weird. But so what we did was, you want to explain plate shot?
Sure. So plate shotting is if the camera doesn't move, you can clear everything out and then just take an empty moment of film, and that creates a plate, which you can then basically use to cover on top of anytime somebody comes in there or changes. So the entire left side of my frame and right side of Ashley's frame is just a static moment when there was nobody there that is looping over top. And then we clean up the seam. So it looks like the road is completely empty the entire time we do the scene, even though there are people just walking back and forth past us and staring.
Yeah, and staring into camera and staring at us, and we really were like working to keep our focus. So
that's a little movie magic for you. That like doesn't seem like a big thing you would have to do, but it if there were a million people in this scene, it would be too distracting. It would be congested.
It was.
The clearance would be a
we've seen
nightmare.
that version.
You know, because you have to go get like everybody's permission to be in the movie.
Right. As long as they're like out of focus and unidentifiable, it's not a problem. But if they become very identifiable, then.
And then this is a little alleyway.
This is also day 2. We did this earlier in the day.
The very beginning of the day that we shot at that cafe. And we went through this little alleyway to the kind of marketplace that they have, a little street market.
And when we were shooting in this alley, someone was doing like home construction and it was a sound problem. And so we asked our kind of Turkish producer, Turkish fixer, who's a travel agent, but like is used to taking groups of Americans around Turkey. So we ended up being incredibly good at this. And she really is,
this is her shop.
Yeah. But we brought these bracelets from America, and she was kind of very like, that's not.
Those aren't mine. But they had to match all the other scenes. They were pre-established.
Because we had to shoot the end of the movie in America before we got here. And we didn't know that it was going to be Turkey at that time because we shot the American scenes without knowing where we were going. And so the bracelet was kind of vague. But when the construction was going on and we asked them to, Maria made an Amy's bracelet. But when we asked them to stop, because you just asked if he could stop for a little like an hour or something, and he asked what we were doing, and we learned to say romantic comedy film in Turkish because it's romantic comedy filmi. And he was like, oh, comedy filmi. And Turks really pride themselves on their hospitality. And we had such lovely experiences with all the Turkish people that we met and worked with. And he immediately was like, chai, and brought tea out for all of us. And what we were taught before we left was that it was impolite to ever turn people down for tea. So we were constantly like stopping and drinking tea in places. But so we all had to like stop and drink tea in this alleyway before we could continue. This is us filming in the Grand Bazaar. The Grand Bazaar, which we had to get kind of snuck in for.
Yep.
Because ever since there was a Daniel Craig Bond film that shot there, and they broke this like ancient window, and then they didn't allow filming in there anymore. But somebody knew somebody who like snuck us in the back way because we could like hide our film equipment. Here we are in Cappadocia, which is, I think somebody asked earlier, our favorite filming locations. Cappadocia.
Cappadocia was magical. We were supposed to, as part of this montage, do a hot air balloon ride at sunrise, but it was too windy, so we weren't able to go.
We weren't allowed to fly.
We kind of made up stuff to do at Cappadocia. To film in.
It's Sagalassos, where we filmed the climax later in the movie, but look, now they're holding hands. This is back to Cappadocia. Cappadocia is an incredible natural phenomenon. This is Pamukkale.
Yeah.
Another incredible natural phenomenon. You have to take off your shoes.
These like salt flats.
Yeah, these travertines. So we added this scene. That's an American beach. That's a Los Angeles beach. We added the scene of me offering him sunscreen and him turning it down, and then him sitting. And for this, I painted him red.
Yes.
Because we needed to justify his skin tone changing. So we added a sunburn into this montage to explain that Brendan actually got a sunburn.
Neat.
Those were the Taurus Mountains behind us in that shot, and we are both Tauruses.
Tauri.
Here we are at the Marta. I think I'm wearing those same leggings right now.
Hematia?
The Marta Hematia, which is on the coast of. It's on the like southwest corner of Turkey, kind of where the Aegean and the Mediterranean meet.
Yes, it's near what's called Marmaris.
And we were there in October, and like it's a yacht resort. We were there in October just after peak season, so we had the whole place to ourselves.
We're the only people there.
Catered to us, and it was so lovely.
This boat, we basically just said we need a ferry that they miss. So I just literally need a ferry they don't even get on. And so we had this ferry literally just come for 15 minutes.
This is my biggest writing contribution to the movie because Brendan had originally written this for a bigger budget. And so he had originally written that like they jump from a big boat to a smaller boat. And I was like, and I was never supposed to get wet. And I was like, I don't know how how we would ever do that on a small budget. We were brainstorming, coming up with ideas, and all of them had me staying dry. And like finally, I was like, I know how it works, but I have to jump in the water with you. And we practiced because we knew we would only get one take. We practiced in a pool in Los Angeles, jumping in the water and not getting thrown by like water going
servicing
up your nose
and doing
and then being able to pop up and do the scene because we knew that I could only jump in the water once and then I'd need an hour to reset. And so also because we knew we had one take of that, we had so many cameras going. There's a drone. There's somebody on the ferry going away with a camera. Dave's on the dock with a camera.
Mm-hmm. Walkers in the water with a GoPro.
And this is Jem Baza, who's a local Turkish actor that Ezra helped us find.
Came for a day. Yeah. Well, this is the Linka. This is the private yacht of the owner of the resort.
The initials of that are the initials of all those are all the first initials of her grandkids, and that's how she came up with the Linka H. And the hospitality industry in Turkey is very female dominated, and so all the hotels that we stayed in were like owned and run by women.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you can see that you're a completely different color. What did you get really burnt? Was it at Sagalassos that you got really burned? We'll get to that. That's the hardest day.
Hardest day.
And so but you cannot take it. So at this point the yacht is docked. You can see that.
Right.
But we need a Patreon yacht called the Ashley. Oh, because you're my grandma's. My patrons are my grandmas. If you want to be my grandma, join my Patreon. So they gave us you can't just take out a yacht without a crew. And so like they sent us with their whole crew.
Out on the yacht for a day.
Jared flew a drone off the yacht.
Yes.
We picked this dress very specifically. We wanted to imply wedding with white, and this is also sort of like the sexiest we ever see Amy. This is the most low cut thing we ever see Amy in. I'm always covered up to my collarbone. That necklace is a Turkish eye that one of our hosts gave to me as a gift, and so we put it in the movie. And yeah, we're really in the sunset here. And this is the same day we jumped in the water, and so I decided not to like fully style my hair, but let it be a little bit more kind of like it had air dried. And that means that like I literally as soon as we were clear and I was out of the water, I went back to the hotel room to shower. And because we're using the suitcases that are Amy's suitcases, we had to use them as real suitcases to transport all of our costumes and stuff. I took the suitcase into the shower to like wash it because it had just been in the Aegean Sea. Oh gosh, I forgot. I was wearing sunglasses on my head when I jumped into the Aegean Sea, and that is where they still are. Or no, I guess, yeah, on my face. They weren't on my head. Like I was wearing sunglasses, and when I popped up, I wasn't anymore. And that is where they were left. Kissing. Which, you know, is one of those things in a movie that like we really carefully choreographed to get the right light and to, look, kissing in movies.
And the behavior of a first kiss, like two characters that are having to like find it for the first time. Like that's
Thank you, Christina. It is gross.
It's a dance. This is through the port of the like little skylight hole of the bedroom on the yacht. So we kind of like come down to like find them in this intimate moment on the yacht.
This scene is cut from the Turkish version.
That is true. This does not appear in the Turkish version of
because
the movie.
Even though this movie is very PG,
yes,
that is implying some premarital conversations.
Yes.
And you can't talk.
You cannot talk
before you're
but what is interesting is we anticipated that being a problem. And so
this scene doesn't affect the plot.
This scene was rewritten so that there are no plot points. There is nothing of any actual substance or value other than scene and basically them making this connection and you being like, oh, they're more intimate with each other now. But that is all that this scene now does. It used to have a lot more information in it. But we knew that this would be the scene that would probably get cut. And so we stripped it of any...
Well, Liza says she loved all the camera angles and choices made throughout the film. So
well, thank you so much.
that's our director.
That's a bit of me, and it's a bit of Dave.
Dave Voorhees, our DP, because Brendan was so much in front of the camera. He really had to have a DP who he could trust, and so they communicated a lot about their vision. But there are some choices that Dave just Brendan would be in front of the camera a lot, saying "I trust you," and that's like a really vital thing to have to be able to kind of work that way. Dave was also Brendan's first pick because Dave is a one-man band. Brendan had worked with him on some sketches for Just Boobs. Just
Boobs is a sketch group from Stephanie Carey, and they had invited me to be in a couple of their sketches. And he was their primary DP for most of their sketches. And I was on set one day watching him like go over and adjust a light and set the camera and get some audio going or whatever. And I was like, he's doing everything. And I went around and looked at what the shot was, and I was like, this looks like a real thing. And was very impressed, and we started a conversation.
And he literally lights, camera, everything, one man. This is a coffee shop in Burbank called Romancing the Bean.
Yes.
It looks like daytime. It wasn't.
Right.
It after that render error, I was like, oh no.
I saw the render error in the movie and thought it was a problem on the screen.
But Dave lit it to look like day.
Yes.
Because we shot there, they close early on Sundays. They close at like 6 p.m. So we were in there from like 7 p.m. until like 4 a.m. Something like that.
Yeah. A true all-night shoot, and we just got this.
Okay,
huge...
so wait, we have to talk about that drone shot that we just. So that drone shot going into the tower is actually reversed because the way it was shot was going backwards. And Jared crashed the drone.
We hit a
Brian was supposed to be spotting
of a sailboat.
Multiple, and so it crashed, fell onto this boat. We found all the pieces, but one of the propellers was broken.
And the camera was broken. And got rush fixes from... Estra found a shop in Istanbul
where we were going after this.
Right,
because
who
we
had replacement parts.
This is their like tower suite fanciest room. It does have like 360-degree windows, which is not something I'm looking for in a hotel room, but
if that's for you.
Something that was very common in Turkey was that like the bathroom was all glass. So like even the separation to the toilet was glass. Sometimes it would just be a curtain. People clearly much less modest about their bodily functions than we are. But so there will be a shot of Brendan's butt.
It's true. Man's butt, as the QC report says.
Yeah, that's quality control. They have to report on anything that might
trigger like an FCC thing. And so like now anytime I see partial nudity in a movie, in anything, I'm like, man's butt. Like I know that's what the report says.
Yeah, like watching The Leftovers, you're like, man's butt. And so, but he insists that it's there because he needed something to cut to.
I mean, there's no other shot to cut to.
This is the only one. And so that's why Brendan's butt's in the movie. To be fair, he didn't ask me to put my butt in the movie. He put his own butt in the movie. He's a girlfriend. It's bad. And so, anyways, this hotel room, every time that I needed to use the bathroom, I would like go downstairs because I didn't want to pee in front of the entire crew. Because I was the only woman who came with us. Estra was there, but basically everyone who came with us did multiple jobs and carried just a tremendous amount of equipment. Yes. And we were supposed to have several. We were supposed to have
double,
two women come with us.
We were supposed to have double the crew.
Yeah.
And at the last minute, our plane tickets got cut in half. So basically, the sponsors asked me, well, could you do it with this many people instead? And I was like, I mean, we can. I mean, they basically presented like, you can either not do it or you can do it with less people. And so we had conversations with all of our crew and figured out basically essential crew to be able to
And
do
so-
6 different jobs and also to basically like carry everything all the time.
So 7 of us went, and then we had 3 people who went everywhere with us in Turkey. So we were basically a crew of 10.
Yes.
We had our driver, Khalid, who spoke no
Khalid.
English, and we loved him, and he did not understand. Oh, we missed your butt.
That's okay.
And we didn't understand.
I've seen
Like
it.
because we would just get like really excited and be like, Khalid, and he'd be like, no. But he loves us. We're friends on Facebook.
Yes.
When we were in Istanbul, he would buy us these little bags of chestnuts, which are kind of being sold everywhere in the fall there. And he noticed that I liked them, so he would just like buy them for me all the time. And then sometimes on Facebook, he'll send me like a photo of chestnuts. There's a language barrier, but I understand the love. And then Esra and Uzgur, our kind of fixer, whose name we can't pronounce because we can't make those sounds, having grown up in America. Okay, this is the real library of Celsus, which is in Ephesus, and we had to get special permits to shoot here. We could not fly the drone here, but pretty freaking cool that we were there.
Yep. So now this shot
Again,
with Josh and Amy
full of people.
is filled with people. There are so many people in the background of this shot in every single moment. And we realized in editing it wasn't going to work. And we had not shot a plate shot.
Meaning a shot where there was nobody in it.
Right. So
because we couldn't get one because it was crawling with people. And
Right.
we were given permission to film there, but we were not allowed to ask anyone to move.
Yes.
And also all the people behind us are also staring directly into camera.
yes. Like, what are these crazy people doing? So Bruce Monach did the specialty VFX for us. And he built a plate out of basically every time someone like in the background like moved from this one area, he'd save that area, and then someone clear this area and he'd save that area, and he stitched them all together like a puzzle into a plate shot that he built, and then that is how he erased the background,
Which is insane.
insane. So he and Dave actually knew each other from, I think, college.
This is a scene that was one of those confidence places where like I just didn't believe that I could be that funny, and Brendan really pushed me, and I'm grateful.
And
I do
funny.
believe I wrote the line.
You
so
did
old.
write so old.
Wow, we have someone from Ephesus with us.
Oh, hello.
Hello. That's incredible.
It's one of our favorite places to go.
This location is Sagalassos,
Yes.
which is quite off the beaten path, so much so that the people who work in the tourist industry asked Brendan, how did you find this place? And the answer is...
I said Google Earth. I was looking for a Roman fountain in Turkey, and this is the only one. And we were so lucky because it seems from photos that the months leading up to us being there, this was covered in scaffolding for a renewal and restoration process. So we got there when it was completely open and exposed, and you could just see the entire gorgeous fountain. And
Should I cut bangs again?
Sure.
It's me just looking at my cute bangs. So this was the hardest day of the entire movie.
Yes.
We were barely speaking. And that's just because tensions were so high. Because when we got there, we realized that because the ground is white marble, it reflects light up like a bounce and a blinding amount of light.
Yes.
And so I'm being shaded here because I'm the leading lady and Brendan gave me the better light. But Brendan is staring into such intense light that after having his eyes open for a few seconds, they would immediately begin to water.
So every line...
And this is how we got so burned, because the light was bouncing.
The light is bouncing up on me. So literally every line, I'm like holding my line.
To like reset.
They're focusing, we're resetting, and then I like quickly open my eyes and try to say the line, close it again. And my eyes are watering and vibrating with just being so messed up.
And it's, a hugely important scene in the movie. Now, it also works out that we were not on the best terms because they're not.
Right. And we're running behind, and
Yeah.
the location wasn't what it was supposed to be, and we didn't have access to some of the stuff we were supposed to have. And I mean, it was the whole, and right
So many
after this,
things
we
went
had
wrong.
to we had to drive several hours to our next location.
Which was the yacht. resort, which we didn't get till like 2 a.m, and we were supposed to get there for dinner.
Yes.
Because this day went so over. This is the only time that we were over in any location because we were so good about being really fast, but we just didn't have a solution to, because they're holding a very tiny silk over my head there, and a silk is basically a big piece of silk that just creates a nice diffusion. So the light on me is beautiful.
Right.
But that's because we had a bunch of tall men with us who were literally like carefully holding it in place, and like a bigger production would just silk the whole area. But we didn't. We had a silk that was like, 6 feet by 6 feet or something. Diffuser, yes. Do we have a blooper reel of this movie? We have a lot of behind the scenes videos.
Yeah.
I don't remember if there's a blooper reel or not.
I don't know.
I don't think.
I think we started to.
But there are some bloopers in the behind the scenes videos.
Yes.
Is essentially.
I think that's where all the blooping material ultimately went. I think what's interesting is in a lot of comedy, you get those great bloopers because people are goofing off and they're having fun or whatever. We were trying to squeeze so much out of every day, and Ashley and I were just trying to hit all the lines and all the marks.
Feelings aren't something you decide or plan. It's true. So we are now. This is back in the Grand Central Market,
the bazaar.
The Grand Bazaar. That's what it's called. And
how bizarre!
We were literally given 2 hours in this location for this hugely important scene. It was very difficult to light. We're still not thrilled with that. My hair looked real bad and no one told me because everyone was super busy doing so many other jobs. But we brought this Dremel with us from America, and we really did cut through it. We had 2 rings, and we really did cut through it. I think you were the one who just stepped outside and finished the cut all the way through. But I really had to stand there with it on my hand and have the Dremel go close to my finger and like touch the thing. And we just had so little time that we were actually shooting on 3 cameras simultaneously to do this.
To get the whole. When you talk about coverage, for example, we were talking about earlier.
Because every other time we were just running one camera at a time.
Set up fully, you did just that shot.
Like perfectly lit with that camera angle, and we just didn't have.
But instead, we went multi-camera and just got as much content as we could to be able to cut together the scene.
But but when we heard we had 2 hours, we were like, no problem. We'll rehearse the crap out of it because we had done so well at Air Hollywood's for that last for that TSA scene with just an hour. But that's a soundstage, and so we had much more control over light and
audio,
and we knew, the angles that we needed. And I know. They're like, party's on Brendan again. I'm like, I know. But so, anyways, I remember that I did not love the feeling of like the Dremel on my hand. And it was a moment where I was like, I trust you not to cut my finger off. I still have that blouse because I think it's cute.
I wrote this scene based off of, I actually watched videos of people dremeling.
Yeah, this is a real thing that happens.
People's hands.
It often happens to women when they're pregnant because their hands swell and they can't get their wedding rings off.
It happens to a lot of men with their wedding rings.
Because they just get bloated?
Yeah, or they're working in like construction or something like that.
Oh, sure.
So those are the videos that I saw was them removing it.
Oh, sad Amy. This is really the Turkish airport.
Yep.
The Istanbul airport. She really is an employee.
Yep.
And she had to like call and ask permission to like let us film her. And for some reason that's how Josh puts paper in his pocket.
Well, it's to show the ticket, but what's an interesting note is VFX, there's dumb VFX in movies that you never, really pay attention to.
That airport is not closed. That makes sense.
That's
such a hub.
That ticket had a very different logo on it, but then Turkish Airlines didn't want that logo in the movie.
Right.
And so we had to spend a bunch of money literally to change the logo on that ticket in that shot. It's those little things that you're just like, that's where the money went. No one even is paying
I
attention
remember
to that.
you wanting that footage and thinking that there were a bunch of takes of it on my phone, and there weren't because you didn't actually record most of them.
Right.
You just had the camera open, but there was one take, and so that's the take of that. So
Here we
now,
are back at Air Hollywood.
now we're in the back of the plane. But you know, just in that montage, there were like so many cool things that we just saw. Like I was like on that boat, which was actually like you know, in Istanbul, one of the many beautiful things that we did. The close up on the bracelet that we just saw, we nabbed on the actual plane back from Turkey because the bracelet had changed from this scene to the end scene once we knew from this scene to the earlier scenes once we knew that it was Turkey and we wanted it to have that like Turkish eye. It had been a different woven bracelet, and so we nabbed just a close-up on an airplane armrest on the actual plane.
Yeah. This is Monica Jolly, phenomenal actress,
who was introduced to us by the casting director Deborah Dion.
This is probably the only scene in the entire movie that from the very first draft that I ever wrote, it has never changed. This is my favorite scene I wrote when I first wrote it. And it really, to me, is like one of my favorite pieces of writing.
But so I had to travel in Amy's travel outfit so that we could grab these shots. Because we just did another close-up on the bracelet and I can't tell. And I'm like, oh, but that was a different day.
Yeah.
It was months apart, like 6 months apart. Because we filmed the American scenes, including this one, in spring.
Yeah.
And then we went there in October. This we actually shot in November.
Yeah. And this is Sarah Fletcher, who I met working for the Fine Brothers and then did Frankenstein MD with. We've been friends for a long, long time. And then this was a guy you knew from Wesley Kahn.
Yeah, I knew him from an acting studio where I was working. And he was like, I need like a hot foreign guy. And I was like, okay. I got that. Do I still have the bracelet? I don't know. It might be in Amy's suitcase, which is in the closet and still full of some non-transferable stuff. I definitely have the engagement ring because I will wear it sometimes to auditions for married characters. Oh, the internet thinks you look beautiful today, Purdy.
Well, good.
They're correct.
That is what matters.
That is correct. It is Catterday. It's a tip I got from other people that or if you're auditioning to be a mom to wear a wedding ring, because heaven forbid someone filed out of wedlock. I don't even always remember to do it, but sometimes I do. I also wore it in Solid Squad. I wore that ring in Solid Squad because Gwen is in a very good marriage. Oh, thanks, Heather. Matt, you love that scene with Monica on the plane. Yeah. She says it's a really good scene.
Well, thanks.
This is the same location where we shot my dough hands.
It's true.
And
all the little inserts
and where we had shot Amy on a blue bedspread that was just in an earlier montage. I think that was an improv. This is outside my brother's old apartment in New York. I mean, San Francisco. What am I saying?
That's America Young.
That's America Young. And that was back
at Ontario Airport.
At Ontario Airport. That jeweler was a jeweler we found.
Yep.
Probably also in Simi Valley, right?
Yes.
Talked a lot about time constraints and practicing scenes like a play before actually filming. Roughly how many takes would you have to film before you got it?
I would say we averaged probably 4 takes per shot because we had some that were very complicated where we did
and this is Shira
8 or 9 takes. Shira Lazar, who I've worked for, and she has the show What's
Brendan
Trending.
Used to guest host this show.
And so she did a fake What's Trending episode about Josh, which was fun. Or some scenes we just we got one.
Everywhere that we were in Turkey, we were just looking for water for him to jump into.
Yes, anytime there was water, I jumped
That
into
pool he just jumped into was a pool that was in a hotel room in Cappadocia. It was a cave hotel room that had a pool in it. But I think you were saying something and I interrupted.
I was just saying the average number of takes. Beth Trifon.
Oh yeah, her career is totally blown up.
Yeah.
She auditioned for, I don't remember if it was Marcy or Sandra, but she wasn't right for either of those roles.
Right.
But we thought she was
fantastic,
and we just wanted to work with her. And so we gave her this tiny role that was nothing. But she's just a delight, and I'm so happy that she's working so much. Now you'll notice that my polka dots are the reverse of what they were at the beginning. Now, instead of blue on white or white on blue, it's blue on white.
And this is Katie at like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, right. We'd finished the end of the movie.
Right.
And we let everyone else go. So it was just Katie acting by herself to a camera.
Yes. After a full night of doing a night shoot, which is a total trooper and a rock star.
She was a champ.
And then we're just blasting a huge light through the window of the coffee shop to make it look like daylight.
Can I have some room? Were there many improv lines and scenes? I would say no, because it was mostly us, and so we rehearsed it so much that like we had kind of found what those things were going to be before the day.
Well, and I would say that all that came through workshopping and rehearsing. I would say that there were definitely a lot of contributions from all the actors, but I think it came out of rehearsal and workshopping and setting up the shot. And then once we kind of had found the scene, then it was like, all right, let's stick with that.
Both of us come from theater, and that is a much more typical process in theater, to really workshop a play. So now here we are in Romancing the Bean, and it's the middle of the night, and we had some professional extras, but I also just watched Kim Brunner walk by, who was also our art department. We really utilized people. I think our makeup people were
everybody who's in the crew is,
and that's true on Idiot Tale. Like when we run such, I mean, this is the biggest set we've run, but we run such small sets that everyone kind of chips in different ways. It is such a sweet little coffee shop. I hope they're doing some takeout orders now.
Yeah.
And this was the last thing that we filmed as part of the first week of filming.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like a month later we shot the office scene, and then like 5 months later we went to Turkey. So this was kind of like the end of the first phase of the filming. How many shooting days were there?
At the end, all told, at the end there were 22 days.
There we go. So this is day 5, I think.
Yeah.
Because I think we went, or maybe 6. I think we went to Ontario that week. We went to the Red apartment one day. We went to Bar Lubitsch one day. We went to Air Hollywood. So I think this is day 5. Yep. I think this is the 5th day of shooting.
And this is what we cut together, all those moments and all these scenes, to be able to pitch tourism boards all over the world to bring us to their country and finish the movie.
Yeah, so we did, and then we were in Turkey for a total of 17 days, and we shot almost every one of those days. We pretended the entrance was in a different part of the store because it told our story better.
Right. Well, this is a nice moment about people are asking about coverage. So we did not have enough time in this coffee shop to shoot all the scenes that we needed to shoot. And so what I did was I mapped out all of the coverage, all the angles I was going to want on every single scene. And we literally started looking at one side of the room, shot every single scene, that coverage, those moments that the camera needed to look that way.
Which meant
and then we slowly turned around and just kept rotating through the scenes that we were shooting.
Which means changing actors' costumes rather than moving equipment.
But it was faster and easier than moving all the lights and resetting up all the focus marks and everything like that.
But I'm only in one, so that was really Katie bouncing back and forth between a few different looks.
Right.
Which is why she has pretty much the same makeup look. So do I. I find it easier to just kind of give a character,
commit to a look.
You know, in the movie like this, we could do different hair looks because, but I'm sorry, Sophie, I say GIF. No, I don't. I say GIFs. What am I saying? She's saying it's not pronounced GIF, and I was like, gross.
Gross.
So we had to do this so many times. I think you were mad at me that I like put my hand on your face in a weird way. You were like, that's not flattering to me. Because it's all about camera angles here.
Oh, and then we talked about bringing Eamon back. So, because Shauna emailed me, I think our second day of filming, she was like, hey, I don't feel like my character really gets a button and gets to kind of resolve and like start her own journey. And it's something that I really want to make sure that I'm not just like this throwaway forgotten character. And I totally understand what that's like, being in a movie where you're a secondary character, but you still want to have a life and a storyline. And so I came up with this idea of bringing back Eamon, the TSA guy, who was also they were both kind of our enforcers in the storyline. And I thought like them having their own meet cute at the end of the movie at the coffee shop. And so we queued up to shoot this scene. And I'm introducing him like, hey, this is Eamon, this is Shauna, we're going to shoot the shoot. And she was like, wait, what scene is this? And I was like, oh, you emailed me about the thing. And she was like, oh, I didn't think we were really going to do that. And I was like, no, of course, it was a great idea, and we're going to incorporate it. So, often actors can bring everybody, the whole crew can bring so many great ideas to make a more full universe and better story. I'm seeing some comments that this was really fun, and I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah.
Little.
Sorry, shawarma, our little tease for a sequel.
But someone asked, was that a prop camera? And it was both a working camera and a prop. It was Jared's Black Magic, which is a pretty fancy camera to be vlogging on.
Yeah.
But we kind of in world pretended that was what she was vlogging on. That camera also came with us to Turkey and did shoot some B-roll stuff.
Yes. But that was there basically to be able to be recording and playing as a camera. Like we used the footage from that, but it was also then in shot so that we could treat it as the practical camera that the characters were using.
Maria asks what the next destination was. There's a reason we didn't say.
Yeah. We were open to any.
I'm so glad that you all had a good time.
Yeah.
And Maria says, please do this for Sona, which might be something that we consider. It was also my idea that we put Murderface at the end of the credits as well. Okay.
So Dick and Jane, written and performed by Sydney York. The Wait, featuring True, written and performed by Tetro. It's Moving Too Fast. Ask DA. Well, this. So let me see if I can skim that back.
This is done now. Because anyways, we actually, Sona is on YouTube, so I don't think, and it's on my channel. So I think if we streamed through my channel, I don't think we would get pinged for that. So I think that's a great idea. I think maybe we'll schedule another time for doing that. Thank you all so much for joining us and for putting up with our technical difficulties. It looks like the whole group hung out through all of this, which is really so sweet and so encouraging. I know that these are weird days and that we're all kind of at home and figuring out what to do with ourselves, and it's lovely to connect. And so I thank you for joining us for our movie party.
We started the experience asking about soundtrack. And so I just wanted to say Sydney York is the opening song called Dick and Jane. Then The Wait, featuring True, which is written and performed by Tetro. And then Falling, which is written and performed by Eric Scott Smith. Ask DA is performed by Yalan. And that's an actual Turkish artist and a Turkish pop song. Welcome to Istanbul was written and performed by Ali Riza Sahenk, and that was actually written for the movie as well. So I would maybe need to reach out and talk to him about including that somewhere.
And then you give DVG credit.
Yes, and then I said Murderface, written and performed by Daniel Vincent Gord and Frank Polanyi, who built the
I thought that was Elon.
score around him. I thought I did as well. I texted Elon during this experience. I was super rude for a moment, and I reached out to Elon and asked about putting the soundtrack on Spotify or some streaming type service, and he said that's something we can definitely talk about. So I said I would help him with any of the assets or the costs to be able to make that happen, but that way we can try to make that available. So we will look for that in the future, possibly as a way for people to enjoy the beautiful sounds of non-transferable.
Just lovely comments, and I see you all, and I thank you so much. Much hand washing to you all. And just so you know, this is Katie's favorite movie.
What? Thanks, Katie.
Christina says she loves her granddaughter and her friends, and that's me. All right, I'm seeing a lot of positive ideas about doing this for Sona, so we'll pick a time and
see if we can make it all work.
Yeah, see if the fancy. I mean, you pretty much.
We got close.
We'll make sure it works before we go live.
Yes. We'll try to learn about live streaming, not the day we're live streaming.
Until we know what we're doing. Again, I say we.
It me.
I am the personality.
It we.
The royal we.
Am I royal?
Sure.
Because we'll never be royal. Okay. Thank you all so much for joining us. This was a delight.
This brightened my day very much too. It's so nice to hear from you all. Marie's asking if you're gonna do homebodies today. I think that's a weekday.
That is going to be some weekdays thing for me, I think.
Unless you have another appointment.
It's true.
Everyone stay safe. Wash your hands.
Bye.
Bye.